Welcome to the Gutsy Granny. I'm Deborah, and the thing I love the most about my job is that I get to speak to amazingly interesting people all the time. And I have to say the guest I have now is a little intimidating because he is like the master interviewer. He is the most extraordinary connector, and when I grow up, I want to be just like Robert Ian. I got your surname wrong. Robert Ian Bonnick.
Bonnick.
I just know him as a big, tall man that looks hot.
Yeah.
You know?
or just call me R.I.B.
R.I.B. Me, R.I.B. And it's interesting because I said to him, oh, look, we don't need to do prep for this because he is the master. He won the Yak Awards to being the best.
So it was award-winning for motivation.
Yeah. So like everybody we have on our little show, they're all doing something really special, not just for themselves to enhance their own personal growth, but in that they bring along everybody with them. And that to me is the definition of a decent, fabulous, awesome human being, which Robert is. So what we're going to talk about today is how do you evolve to be who you really want to be? How did you evolve from the backstory, very briefly, if you want to share it, I'm happy to. Not an easy story.
Yeah. Oh, look. No. Look.
It wasn't easy.
You know.
You didn't get the good stalk.
But you don't. But you never know, right? Like, you never know what your story is because it's a story that you're given, and you know. Yeah. So, and for me, I'm still evolving, right? So, if you fast forward and say, like, what is my life about? My life has always been about inspiring people to make positive change, right? Positive shifts. So 1 billion people is my target, to create a positive shift in the lives of 1 billion people.
Oh my goodness, did you guys get tingles? I got the tingles. You know when you get the tingles,
I know the tingles.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah. Okay.
So then if you look at it from that perspective and say, well, if that's what your life stands for, then what sort of background would you need to have to arm you with the gifts, skills, traits, and attributes to be able to fulfill a goal like that? So when you look at it from that perspective, then you actually see that the childhood that I had was exactly
what you needed.
What I needed. So, 6 months of age to 18, 2 children's homes in London. I learned so much. I saw hundreds of kids, some lived, some died. There were some life and death situations. There was a massive racial incident that happened when I was 12, which wrote the chapter of that particular part of my life, which was realizing that, that for me, unity and empathy go hand in hand, and that's the most important thing that we have, right? So racism, I'm a black man, as you can see, but for the first 13 years, I thought I was white.
Why?
Yeah, because...
didn't they have mirrors?
Yeah, I know, you would have thought that, eh? But
because your teeth shone so much.
Yeah, the teeth. The children's home was pejoratively black, but I was the only black kid at school for the first 13 years. So basically, all of my attributes, atteggiamenti in Italian, all of the ways that I saw the world were Caucasian from a Caucasian standpoint. So I used to stand with a mirror up to my face saying, well, my nose is too wide, my lips are too big, head's too pointed, I got to change some stuff, right? Really upset and angry and confused and not happy or comfortable in my own body, right? So all of that. And then what that racist attack did is that then I saw that all of us, regardless of the color of our skin, the religion that we follow, the language that we speak, want a few things. One is to be, loved for who we are, right?
Accepted.
Another one is to be fulfilled in what we're doing, and the acceptance piece. So these things all come into one. So from the kids' home, what I learned was that. And then later on, as I excelled at sport and then traveled around Europe playing basketball, and then, managed to go on this round the world trip and ended up falling into modeling because
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah, of course. I always leave some back. So what happened was that, because I wasn't happy or comfortable with how I looked for validation outside.
Which we all
right?
do. as a young person.
Right, there you go. So I remember it was a Swiss Jeans show, 1998 in Milan. I was the first one out on the catwalk. This was one with Naomi Campbell, because I worked with all the supermodels as well. That's another story. And basically what happened was 30 seconds before, ready to go, the same thoughts and feelings that I had when I was 12 with the mirror looking up saying I want to change this, and this, all came
You got a massive insecurity
flooding
attack.
back, bang, at that moment.
Oh no.
And at that moment, I realized that all of the outside in stuff was a crock of SHIT and didn't work.
Yeah, we hear this over and over again.
Yeah.
It's the same fabulous story that we're all coming to.
Yeah. So at that point, I realized, well, I've done the outside in, didn't work. I've got to do the inside out. And then that's when...
How old were you then?
Okay, to the early 20s, right?
That's young.
Yeah,
That's young. But then you'd started young.
I started young.
Yeah, exactly.
I started young.
How did you not get a chip on your shoulder?
Yeah.
Or become a victim? How did you manage to go through so much shit and not go, why me? Why did this happen to me? Why was my mum not the mum that, why did she abandon you? How did you deal with your abandonment issues?
I did go through that. Sport was a great outlet for me because it allowed me to exorcise my anger and my upset
in a healthy way.
And my rage in a healthy way. Depends. If you were the guy that I tackled, it wouldn't have been healthy, right? Because I was angry, I was mad.
And you're a big guy.
I used to fly in with my head, like my head's pointed for different reasons, but boom, I'll go in like that. So I managed to have that also.
But that's also healthy.
Yeah.
You chose a healthy way to vent your anger at your childhood.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't take drugs, you didn't drink, you didn't go out and murder people, which, you hear backstories of people that have done terrible things of generally.
Yeah. I was too scared as well because I was an introverted extrovert. So the person that you see before you now who can talk freely and ask me anything sort of thing, who can be comfortable in any place, anywhere in the world with anyone.
Yeah.
I have not always been that person. I was an introverted extrovert. So and I still am. So what that means is that, at home, in the children's home, I used to spend time by myself. I used to suck these two fingers and I used to be in the corner just looking, wanting to be a part of everything else, but not feeling confident enough to ask. And each time I did ask, I'd be refused. Like, no, you can't. Oh. So then I didn't want to ask anymore. So then what happened was that was my life at home. But then...
But where did you get cuddles from? Where did you get the basic... I mean, you've got two beautiful girls. How old are they now? 5, 7, 7, 9?
Close, very close, 5 and 7.
5 and 7.
You're good, Deb, you're good.
Yeah, but you know how much cuddling, touching. Who did that for you?
Yeah, different people, because we had different members of staff that were our surrogate parents in a way, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But how many kids were there?
Through that children's home, the second one, there would have gone, in the time that I was there, maybe 100 or more kids probably would have gone through, right?
Well,
and
that's not many cuddles to get if there's 100 kids to...
But 18 at any one point in time.
Oh, okay.
18 to 20.
Were your brothers and sisters with you or not?
No, my elder sister only.
Right.
And then my younger brother was fostered to a Welsh professor in his family in Aberystwyth, Cymru. Aberystwyth in Wales. So all
Can you do the Welsh accent as well?
Oh boy, it was amazing seeing my brother.
do the Scottish one. I like the Scottish one.
Oh, it was like attempted murder and all that. It was murder. My childhood was murder. But you learn all this stuff, right? So the extroverted part of me came out when I was playing sport, because then what I realized is that when you win stuff and when you do stuff like that and have great success, and you're put on a pedestal, it's very difficult to kind of be the introverted guy going, yeah, well, I did okay, So then I embraced this other side of me. And then what I realized is that when I was being that guy, I would create different opportunities to when I was being correct.
Were you clear of what you wanted to manifest?
No, I wasn't clear at all, but I knew that if I was that funny, likable. I was always kind of funny because that got me out of being beaten up. If someone wants to beat you up and you crack a joke, right? When you crack a joke, they're not going to want to beat you up anymore. They want to have you around.
Write that down, everybody. That's a really good one.
Around, right? So that's how I avoided getting the beating. It didn't always work, but most of the times it did, right? And so that part of me, that funny side of me, was always there. And then being the guy who used to win stuff, then it was like an opportunity to practice and to be an actor and try on that jacket, that role.
Is that because you didn't have any role models?
No, there were role models in the children's home, but there were role models doing all sorts of things. One guy got shot in the head, right? That guy taught me so much, right? Lee Burke, his name was. Another guy was the first black head chef in a major 5-star London hotel. His name was Gary Lee. Another guy, Ivan Loftman, was one of the fastest, I think at the time he was one of the fastest sprinters in the UK. Super fast. So there were incredible role models in all directions. Those who felt like they had it all but actually didn't. Those who didn't have anything but had everything. and those who didn't really understand anything about anything, in a sense of they were just stumbling their way through life. And again, the introverted side of me could see if they made that choice, that was the outcome. Do I want the outcome?
But just a question that's just come to mind, because you're such an interesting person. When you have children, you want everything for them. You spoil them. You give them everything they want. It's human nature. Do you think that human man, needs less to achieve more? I mean, clearly you just had 4 people that went to the children's home that, you know, you're sugarcoating it. It would have been shit. You know, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to realise that. But 4 people have managed to rise out of potentially 100. That's a reasonably high statistic to do extraordinary things. I mean, how are you going to teach your 2 little girls to have your guts, your determination, your, what's the word? It's the drive, that really core drive in your belly, that, you know, it's not all on a silver platter. If we want to do something, how are you going to do that? How are you going to bring that core part of you into parenting?
Great question. So, you know, this is the resilience piece, right? Resilience. And resilience isn't something that you can depending on epigenetics, you know, resilience isn't necessarily something that you can pass on. It's something, you know, like inspiration is caught, not taught. So, and that's from a great friend, Gregory Lansman, who I interviewed this morning. But it's true. So it's circumstances which led me and gave me opportunities to do something else. But what gave me that desire, that will, that burning will, is tricky to describe, you know, in the sense of how do you instill that in someone else. So, and we can come back to that. But when it comes to our kids, Marina and I, what we want to do is for them to see that, you know, that they are blessed, right? They can eat, they have a roof over their head, they can go out, we can buy things, some things bigger on occasion, whatever it might be. But also to understand, you know, that you treat people with respect. You know, also to understand that things take work. Nothing is necessarily handed to you, right? So even those 3 things, you know, unity and diversity, that we don't treat people differently on the color of their skin or the accent that they speak with or the fact that they're a man or the fact that they're a woman. We treat people with equal respect. And that comes from how Marina and I treat one another as well, because it's not taught, it's caught, right? So in other words, we can teach our kids this, and this, but if we're not mirroring what we say, kids learn from what you do, not what you say. So that's what I mean of like, it's caught, not taught. So even though what I've said about those things about instilling them, really it's about Marina and I, you know, being a stand for who we saying we want to be. And they'll catch that. So if, for example, you know,
they might not.
Or they might not.
I've got 4.
Yeah, you know, like
and grown up.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example, right? So in Sydney, we had a cafe which is called Social Laneway. Now Alexa was in a baby Bjorn for me most of the time. I wasn't making coffee, but I was taking the money and doing other stuff. So she was always seeing the interaction, was always seeing how I treated people, and those things I couldn't teach her, but she will catch, right? And so consequently, you know, maybe part of being the first kid, but her emotional intelligence is off the charts. Like she, you know, for me, the key attribute which I have is empathy, right? But she has got this emotional IQ that's off the charts, I feel. With the younger one, who I didn't spend that time with running around with, you know, and this is also second kid syndrome, you had 4. She's like, I want it, give it to me now. I don't care what I have to do, I want it, I'm having it. Like she is just like a force of nature, and she can intimidate the older one. Right? So like, you know, so in there, the answers are, you know, there's certain things that we kind of talk about openly, and we explain things, but really it's about how we act, because they're copying us. And with these two girls, that is being mirrored back to us. Because they're only 5 and 7, they don't know what they're doing, so, to a certain extent, but they're mirroring back to us what we said, from the words that we use, from the stance, from the jokes and all this other stuff, like they're copying, right?
And bringing them to Bali and out of entitled Australia is probably not a bad idea, but
Yeah.
that's another story. So then you came to Bali,
Yeah.
and your answer was, why not?
There's another answer to that. I mean, look, so to quickly fill in a few blanks for people. So with the Milan and the modelling side of it, then that led to MTV Music Awards, working with Madonna, and then I got a call to go back to Sydney, 'cause I'd been there prior, and then we had 20 years of running clubs at the highest level, working with people like Justin Hems, which you know, obviously. One of the places we had was voted number 3 in the world. We did really well with that. But what it did is that, you know, 2,000 events is what I put on. 1.5 million people it attracted. So, which were all personal, like all hands, touch, cuddles now. Can you imagine it? 1.5 million people.
COVID cuddles.
You know, COVID cuddles. That would be a bit crazy. But again, you know, the thing that inspired me, because your question in the beginning was how do we become who we are, is that in the children's home on a Sunday afternoon we would have all these different people from the neighborhood, rich, poor, all the different colors of the rainbow, the different religions of the rainbow. You can imagine it in our back garden playing football, 30, 40 people. It was like at the door you checked your ego, you checked your attitude, you checked your ideations on other people, and some weapons, right? Anyway, for some, right? Joking, not joking. And then, so what happened was that you would come into that garden and you would enter into a conversation that was purely people relating, with no conjecture, with no like outside extremes or I'm this, I'm that. So there was this thing about humanity that was created in that back garden. And that simple act is what pushed me and drove me to connect people. Through the clubs, 20 years running all of that, working with all these different celebrities.
So the clubs were in Sydney?
Yeah. Italy as well. So becoming a coach, becoming a speaker, becoming an author, all of those things were driven out of the desire to connect and to bring people together.
So you had an epiphany when you were early 20s in Milan, then you moved to Sydney, and there must have been, obviously there was another epiphany. What was that to move you out of that sort of very established, you would have been paid well, you would have been in the scene?
Yeah, like, you know, like, because I had the upbringing of seeing life as it really was, I was never taken by the drugs or by the sex or by the alcohol, though I did like a vodka lime and lemonade. Better than the other man, but I was never taken by that because I could never be. When you see a guy, or a guy who you live with is shot in the head for what people believe is a drug-related thing, whether it was or whether it wasn't is irrelevant, then it leaves you with this impression of, you know what, I'm never going to become that guy.
Yeah.
So then I learned at a very young age very strong things, and they helped insulate me from the negative effects that people experience working in the scene for a long period of time. So after that, you know, there were several milestones throughout that time. One was going to Ayers Rock. I was burning out, and Antonio, who might be watching this now, Antonio Zambarelli, business partner of like 20 years, ongoing, still going. You know, like he was like, Rob, you need a break. I'm like, no, I don't. He goes, you need a break. And he sent me on this trip to Ayers Rock area by myself. And it was an amazing time. You know, I was there by myself 4 or 5 days. And yeah, I ended up.
It's so spiritual there.
Oh, mate.
It just, yeah, it's
amazing. It was amazing. And I ended up meeting this guy.
An Aboriginal, an elder?
Yes, Bob Randall.
Yes, I've met him.
There you go.
I've actually sat around the fire and had conversations with him.
Well, we had conversations for 3 days.
Oh, lucky you.
3
Wow.
3 days. An amazing man.
Amazing man.
And he's passed away now, as you know. And amazing man. And that, you know, taught me so much. You know, and that helped to steady my ship.
And that was the sort of, that was the exit from Sydney.
That was one of the moves that happened part way through.
Oh no, we've only got 5 minutes, so we've got to move. So
we go.
What I want to know is the interviews. Bali. You're interviewing some of the most mover and shaker people here. I mean, you've got your Speak Up Mondays, you've got your other things.
Yeah.
I also want to say that when I was at my lowest ebb, when I came back from Australia and I was really struggling, you were really kind and really, you know, you said, write a bio, Deb. Look at all the amazing things you've done. Remember? You got me to do that.
I remember.
And that was sort of the catalyst of me starting this journey here.
Yes!
And
another one! Yes!
And it's just a little thing sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? I had to get out of my own way and go, hey, you know, I'm not such a bad person, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So you're meeting and talking to all these incredible people. And you've been doing it now for a year and a half. How long?
2.5 years.
Oh, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just can't imagine what it would be like to speak to amazing people all the time.
You know, like working with the celebrities as I did over this whole course and career, you know, I've seen life from here and from here. And what I saw was the connection between, which are those things we mentioned earlier on, that no matter who we are, these are the things that we want. Becoming a coach and a speaker and looking at it from that perspective as well, I could see, I saw the connection that it doesn't really matter on this particular level what we have or don't have in that sense. There's things that we want which is the same things.
Yeah.
So when I speak to you know, people which are well-to-do, which have got things
like
going on.
the guy today, the head of Pepito.
Yeah.
His stories.
Amazing guy. You know, like it's with a level of deference, but it's with a level of humanity, because ultimately what Speak Up Monday stands on are two things. You know, one is that people inspire people. And that's whether to inspire you to do the right thing or do the other thing. Whatever it is, you get inspired by people. That's one.
Yeah.
The second one is Bineka Tunggal Ika, right? That unity and diversity. So these are the two things that underpin all of it. Whoever I'm speaking to, that's the DNA of the show. And it's then about how do we create a container, a space where these insights can be revealed. But there's 3 insights. One insight is when you're speaking to your guest, or when I'm speaking to my guests, revealing blind spots. Another one is to the audience. We have a live studio audience. And the other one is to the audience who's looking on camera. And we set it up in such a way with just the intention going in that everyone will get value. It's not just about, because most of the time, you know, when you interview people, they're used to being interviewed. So therefore they've come with the same lines, the same stories, the same this and this. And if you got someone on autopilot without engaging them or creating something, you've heard it before. It doesn't mean they have to be as way out as me or as extroverted, or it doesn't mean that either. But it just means that if you can create that level of intimacy and comfort with someone, if you're able to get them to talk about the things that, depending on what kind of interview you're doing, but the kind of things that inspire them, move them, scare them, freak them out. If you can get to that place with them, then it's amazing what can happen. It's amazing what can come out. And last night, for example, with Nyoma and Santiawan, like very, very, very few people know about his family and the disability with his stepkids and all of this stuff that they were doing, like very few people, but he was comfortable to share it because there's a comfortability that was present that then allows him to drop into it and to speak. And he's obviously a beautiful guy anyway, but that's it. So it's about the container.
So just finishing off, just 2 things you've just said. Firstly, you want to reach 1 billion people. 1 line, how?
Collaboration.
With these sort of modalities, yeah?
Collaboration. So I'm a coach and I'm an advisor. And so what I do is I help businesses, entrepreneurs, leaders, right, turn their story to become an authority in their industry, an authority in their niche.
And that's your job.
That's I wouldn't call it a job. I would call that's part of my mission,
But how do you get bread on the table?
Yeah, simple, that one. Because, you know, so when you're an advisor, it's a bit like being a consultant.
Right.
So in the same way that consultants get paid, is the same way in which I get paid.
Okay.
Right? But the thing is that these people that I'm dealing with have communities of thousands, hundreds, some have got millions, right? So if I can impact them in a powerful, positive way, then that impact then passes through them into the communities which are already part of them. And in some of those situations that we even build
So you've got
the
ripple.
communities.
Yeah.
Exactly. So how do you get them? Collaboration. Because even though it may be a paid position, it's still a collaboration, right? Because to work on this sort of frequency, it is about resonance, right? It is about
Authenticity.
Authenticity. Absolutely, that's all part of it as well. So that's how I fulfill the mission.
Have you got a timeline when you're going to do this?
Yeah.
When is it?
Absolutely. So the timeline changes, but no, 20 years.
You've got 20 years.
20 years to do it.
So by the time you're 70, you're going to have 1 billion followers, and you're going to
create a positive shift in the lives of 1 billion people.
Okay, so I think we have to have another conversation, and we need to start exactly where we finished off, because now I'm interested, and I'm sure you are too, how Robert is going to positively impact the lives of 1 billion people, because that is a pretty big manifestation, and I know you're going to do it. So thank you so much for coming. I feel the same as I did when I started, intimidated and excited. But I also know you have to take baby steps and start somewhere. And to have mentors like you that have got the ethics and the integrity and the vulnerability and the courage is inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Deb.
Loving
what you're doing. Keep going, consistent.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you from the Gutsy Granny, and what a privilege it's been, as always. Have a great day. Love you all.